This is Robert Demers for Conman here at the Fantasia International Film Festival, and I'm here with John McNaughton, the director of The Harvest. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing very well, thank you.
Are you excited for tonight's international premiere?
I hate to be, I'm never excited. There's so many good things have happened in my life and so many bad things have happened in my life. I try not to get excited about either. And recently I've been reading the great French philosopher Montaigne, who was influenced by the Stoics. And I'm a very big fan of the Stoics, and the Stoic philosophy is to take life as it comes, good and bad, and with forbearance and humor. So nothing against the festival. It's a wonderful festival, but I hope it goes well, and if it doesn't, I'll be fine too.
Can you tell our audience a little bit about your film?
Yeah, but I can only tell them about about the halfway point, because a favorite tactic of mine in making films is to, in the early stages of the film, kind of lull the audience into a sense of thinking, oh, okay, I know what's going to happen. I've seen this movie. I've seen this kind of story before. Or, lead them down a path where you make them confident they know what's going to happen next. They know what kind of story it is. And as soon as they become complacent, then you yank the rug out from under them and go, no, it isn't that kind of story at all. Now it's something, and it's like, whoa. And I think that's very good, I think that's great for audiences, because they don't want to see what they've seen before. But in one sense, in the beginning, it kind of helps if they do sort of feel, all right, I get it, this is what it is. It's like, no, it's not. So this movie at about the halfway point makes a drastic change of tone. But it's about a little boy played by a wonderful actor named Charlie Tahan, who was 13 when we did the movie. And he lives in a house, and his mother's a pediatric heart surgeon, and his father is a former nurse who left the profession to take care of him because he's a very ill child. He can't walk. He's confined to his room or a wheelchair, and he has this very isolated, overprotected life. And one day, a little girl moves in down the way, and they're out in the woods, and she happens to come upon their house and looks in his window, sees him, and they become friends. And then she climbs in the window, and they play video games together, and they become friends. And this is the first friend that he's ever had. And his mother, played by Samantha Morton, two-time Academy Award nominee, who is a heart surgeon in the movie, just does not like this little girl, does not like the fact that she's hanging out with her son. And it becomes like, well, what's going on here? And then the father, Michael Shannon, sort of has sympathy for the little girl, but he's very much dominated by the mother. And I refer to it as sort of, in Hollywood, we always, when you're pitching a movie to get money, you go, oh, this is a cross between Lawrence of Arabia and Friday the 13th, Our movie, The Harvest, to me, is a cross between Hansel and Gretel and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. It's the story of these two children, and you could say there's a wicked witch, and but the parents, Michael Shannon and Samantha Morton, have a kind of a Virginia Woolf caustic relationship that's very damaging to themselves and to the kid also. And Peter Fonda plays the grandfather of the little girl. And so we have 3 Academy Award nominees, Samantha twice, Michael Shannon once, and Peter Fonda once. So it's a great cast, and the kids are fantastic. The kids are as good as the adults.
This is your first time directing a feature film after 13 years. How's it been to get back into the swing of things?
Well, it was really 11 years that from the start till now is 13 years. But actually, in 11 years, I had made a feature. I'd done a fair amount of television, and I'd done a lot of pilots. And the problem with pilots for your career, they pay really well. But if the network doesn't pick them up and put them on air, which most pilots don't get picked up and put on air, nobody ever sees them. So you put them on your resume, and it's like, so what? No one's ever seen it. We don't care it doesn't help you. And I just finally got burned out, and just through a combination of circumstance and fate, did other things for a little while. Traveled, read a lot, wrote, and and I pushed a few projects along, and until finally this one clicked. So it was great. It was great to be back to work. But it's interesting how much things have changed. And as I say, this film is kind of a farewell to 35 millimeter film and to big orchestral scores. We had 22-piece string ensemble doing the score. We shot 35 millimeter film, and I think it's probably the last time. It's funny. Did you see? What's the film that played last night? The one that takes place on
Cybernatural?
Yeah, I mean that to me is sort of moving into the future, and the film I made is sort of saying goodbye to the past. So the film I'm working on now, another Bill Murray based film, will almost certainly shoot digital and shoot in a lot quicker style, and also probably will be a digital score. Won't be going into the studio with an orchestra again. And that seems to be that era is over.
It's sad but true.
Sad but true, but time marches on, so what's next?
You'll be working on a Bill Murray project. That's going to be an interesting thing to go through.
Well, it'd be my fourth time with Bill. So Bill sent me this script 6.5 years ago, and he said, I have the script I want you to read, and I want you to direct it. So I read it, I liked it, and I agreed to direct it. And that's how these, it's like, okay, I haven't made a film for 11 years. Well, 6.5 years ago, we started on that film, and maybe we'll be making it soon. So that's, I was just, I worked for Martin Scorsese years ago on Mad Dog and Glory. He hired me to direct the film and he produced it. And I was just watching an interview with him, I don't know, a month or two ago after the Academy Awards, a few months back, and he's talking about, oh yeah, well, we're, this project, we're getting ready to, he said, yeah, we've been working on this one for 10 years. He said, well, this other one we've been working on for 20 years. And it's just like, it's funny because I'm working on a lot. You always work on many projects. And when a script comes in, the first, okay, this is it. The script's done, great. Now we're going to send it out to actors. And you always think the same thing. Well, we're going to get some actors, and then in a few months we'll be making this picture. If you're making it in 5 years, you're lucky, And it never happens that way, but you sort of never learn that, the script's ready. It's really great. We're going to send it out. We'll be making this movie next year right away. Boom, boom, boom. 6.5 years we've been working on this one, and we'll see.
Well, I think myself and a lot of our audience will be looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'd be looking forward to it myself, actually. To continue to work again after a long time. Relaxing.
Samantha Morton in the film has a very powerful role and gives an excellent performance. What was done to bring that sense of desperation to her character and the film overall?
Well, I think the story carries the desperation, and Samantha's just, an insanely gifted actor who, I don't know, there were other actresses considered and spoken to and given the script, and none of them wanted to touch that role, especially if they were mothers. They just didn't want to go into themselves to that place they had to go to do what that character does. And Samantha's just fearless. So, I just kind of, when you work with really great actors and they know what they're, and they don't ask for a lot of help, like I say, the longer I direct, the less I direct. And I just stayed out of her way mostly, just a little bump here and a little bump there, but just watched her very closely. And so she knew I was watching her very closely. And there wasn't a whole lot of direction involved, or with Michael.
What would you say was your favorite, most memorable moment from the production?
When Peter Fonda was working, because Peter is such a joy to have. Working with Michael, and you're working with Michael Shannon and you're working with Samantha Morton, and they're playing two parents who really, and a couple who don't get along very well and have an awful sort of relationship. And that's the best thing that's going on in their lives, because what's involved with this child is so awful. And for those actors to have to go there internally did not make them happy people, They weren't real, upbeat on the set. You just kind of stayed away from them. Let them, gave them what they needed. But I could tell that, Michael was, it was an awful role to play in many ways, and it didn't make him a happy guy. But Peter Fonda was playing the kindly grandfather, and I'd worked with Peter before. And Peter's, been around, been everywhere, done everything. Took LSD with the Beatles when he was a young man. I mean, he's done everything, and he's just an extremely nice person, and he's nice to everybody on the set. And if the kid that brings coffee, hey, sit down, and he'll sit there and he'll treat the kid that carries the coffee the same as he would treat President Obama, like his best buddy, and everyone loves him. So when Peter's on set, everyone's happy, so those were the best moments for me. It was like, oh, Peter's here. It's going to be, it's not going to be so intense today.
Well, thank you so very much for talking with us, and I wish you all the success with your film tonight.
Thank you. I hope it goes over.